Welcome to the Business Spotlight. Today, I'm excited. I've got Martin Whiskin. You are an award-winning voiceover artist and apparently renowned as the tingle giver. Now, I need to know more about that.
Oh no.
Very excited to dive into your journey, how you've built your business and your career, and how you are captivating audiences worldwide. So
Mm,
thanks for coming on.
no worries. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Right, so first question. So tell us what you do, how long have you been doing it, and what's the journey been like up to this point?
Okay. So yep, my name's Martin, and I'm a voiceover artist, and I've been doing it for. My website went live January 2020, so that's when I sort of finally made the decision. Yes, this is what I'm doing because before that point, I was a database manager for nearly 20 years, showing my age a bit there. Um, and yeah, so something completely different now, and the journey has been is excellent now. I'm really enjoying myself now. I'm very happy. But at the beginning, it was tricky, difficult. Never worked for myself before, so I came into business with kind of I guess a clouded view of what running a business was like, just through what I'd learned from the companies that I'd worked at. So to start with, my journey was slow, dull, um, other negative words, and it just didn't really get started very well. I think because A, I didn't know what I was doing because I'd never done it before, but B, all of the things that I was trying to do came from a very corporate background, whereas I'm now in a creative industry where personality seemingly is much more important.
Yeah, and what would you say has been your biggest lesson to date? So almost 5 years in now. Yeah, what's that biggest lesson that?
Yeah, it kind of links to what I was just saying. So as an example, when I first started networking, I hadn't done networking before because I hadn't had to. The business that I worked for ran and had, been running for many years. So it had its clients. People knew where to find it if they wanted that work doing. So I was out networking, but doing it very formally, shall we say. So I dressed very smartly, firm handshake, talking about business to business people. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing in business. So I wasn't really talking. It was all the, buzzwords and just no real definition in what I was saying to people, I guess. So I didn't get anywhere. And it was the same in social media, what I was doing. I was just talking about very dry things, not use the word personality again. There was nothing to it. So the biggest learning that I took, I think was, and it was helped by lockdown, in, I guess it was 2020, that, and yeah, it was from what other people were posting on LinkedIn, just became very human because everybody was at home, everybody was sitting around on LinkedIn chatting to each other. And I think despite everything negative that happened around that time, it was a great leveler of people. So everyone just went to their base level of being a human. There wasn't the bosses and the workers or anything like that. It was just everyone was in the same boat, trying to get by. Um, and what I took from that was just be yourself. Don't pretend to be this wise businessman doing business with business people because that really isn't me. Yes, I do run a business now, but I'm not a businessman by the traditional sense. Um, so it really was to be myself. And as soon as I started doing that, posting about or posting in my tone of voice as opposed to a corporate tone of voice, start to make worthwhile connections, building relationships, and getting work through social media as well. So that, yeah, sorry, in a long-winded way, the biggest learning is being myself.
Great advice there. Thanks, Martin, for sharing that. Um, so currently, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you have in managing your business?
I think it's and it's probably always been this, is not time manage. I guess it does come back to time management, but having enough time to do the things that I want to do. And part of that is because I'm always having ideas for things, or maybe I should try this and do that project and get involved with this thing and write a book and whatever. And even I guess even writing them things down and getting them out of my head quite often doesn't help because I still have those ideas. So I think that my biggest challenge is not time management, prioritizing those ideas. Um, I, and I don't want to sound big-headed, but I think I have too many ideas for things to try. That's not to say that they're all good ideas because they really aren't. But yeah, I wish that my brain would sometimes slow down a bit and just let me get on with the stuff that I need to get on with rather than thinking, oh, look at that over there. Maybe I'll have a go at that as well.
Ah, yeah, and I think it's definitely not unique. I relate with that.
Mm,
In Action Coach, we call it the shiny thing syndrome.
mm,
So you're always like, "Ooh, I look over there."
yes.
So yeah, very, very, very valuable there. Thank you for sharing. I absolutely love it. If you can tell me a little bit about the tingle giver. So where did that come from?
So there was a period last year, I think 2024, where I was working with like a creative, I guess you would say creative coach, sort of idea generation stuff. And I was trying to build this or my brand a bit more to sort of flesh out the backstory and things like that and come up with taglines and, hooks for things rather than just Martin Whiskin voiceover artist because it does what it says on the tin. It tells you who I am and what I do. That's it. That's the name of my business. But I wanted something else to hook people. So there's a couple of different ideas that we had, and it was all about trying to get to the point that voiceover is about emotional connection with the audience. And that could be any emotion. It could be joy, it could be fear or sadness or happiness, anything like that. And the first one that we come up with was a play on words of, like if if you have a piece of music going round and round in your head for hours, it's called an earworm. And we tried to work on that, but turn it to the emotional connection side. So we said, we're trying to work with something with heartworms. So it's the voice is something that gets into your heart, but it sounded a little bit too gross to I don't mind like having the personality in my business, but heartworms sort of gives this image of, well, exactly that, worms, diving into people's hearts and things, which isn't nice. So we kind of went down a different route of thinking what emotions can do to you, and one of them was, oh, it can make your sort of hairs stick up on end, and it can almost make you tingle a bit sometimes when you hear a piece of music, watch a film, or hear a voice. And that's where we went with the tingle giver. And it's something that it's on my website and I do use it a bit, but I don't really I've never walked into a room and said, hi, I'm Martin, I'm the tingle giver. Because
My,
I think it's just a little, yeah, it's one of them things. It could be taken many different ways, I think. And I almost think that if it needs explanation, it might need to be changed.
well, I think it's a good opener
Yeah.
for breaking the ice. So you might give it a go and see.
I was like, I'll report back.
Yeah, yeah, making connection there. I think it's a really good statement. So yeah, that was brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Martin.
All right.
So biggest hurdle you've overcome, and what did
Yep.
you learn from it?
Biggest hurdle. I think it has to be something to do with again linking with pretending to be something I'm not. Probably building relationships was the first thing, or the biggest hurdle, because I was being very cold, very sort of dry, almost wearing a mask, disguising the real me. I wasn't letting my, oh, this sounds so naff. I wasn't letting my true self be revealed to people. um, but I think in that process, and it was a bit of luck actually. I saw someone who I'm still in touch with now posting online saying, "Does anyone want to try this new online networking event?" And I'd never done online networking before, so this was around the time of COVID, and I thought I've got to do it because I can't go out to networking events anymore. Well, at least for now. So I joined this online networking event, and very sort of, well, I was in that group for about a year and forged some really strong relationships with people that I still know and talk to and work with now, sort of well, nearly 5 years later. So I think the biggest hurdle was not knowing anyone. So it was, I didn't have anyone to ask advice about business. I didn't have anyone to ask advice about voiceover because I had this very narrow minded perception to start with that it's my business. I don't want to talk to other voiceover artists because they're all my competition, which now I realize that was very silly. But that's again coming from the corporate background. It was our company versus all of the other companies that did the same thing. So yeah, sorry, there's a few things in there, I think. So the biggest hurdle being just not knowing people and not having those relationships. I guess that you all, if it's the first business you've ever started, I guess everyone starts in that place of not knowing anyone yet. But the simple lesson was to join a networking group.
Excellent. And would you say, if you can wrap that up in advice for someone starting out in business, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. In order to start relationships, build that sort of support network, perhaps with for collaborations or even doing business together. Meet people via networking. Join a networking group. We'll go to some free networking events, and it's just really good practice to talk to people. Because you will have to talk to people for your business to run. You can't do it all by yourself the whole time.
Golden nugget right there, Martin. Thanks so much. Um, Rapid fire questions. What's the key
Okay.
to success for you?
Happiness.
Like it. I love it. One piece of advice that you've received
Yeah.
that you can pay forward.
Oh, to separate, and not everyone agrees with this, but I think I do. So this is not a rapid fire answer, sorry. And it is to separate yourself from the work that you do. So, for example, if I send a job to a client and they come back and say, "Oh, actually, I'm not quite sure about it. Can you try it this way, or can you change this, or about the work?" Don't get upset. It's just that's your interpretation of the work, and now they have a different interpretation, so they want it that way. It's not a personal attack. Don't get upset by their comments. So yeah, try and have that bit of separation between yourself and the work that you've created.
Excellent answer there. Best book you've read or podcast that you've listened to that you can recommend to others?
The best book in terms of business, and I was introduced to this book by Andrew Laws, who's an SEO guy from Ipswich, and I've known him for years. And he said, everyone I've recommended this book to has said after reading it that it changed their life. And I was, of course, skeptical before reading it because I'd never read any sort of businessy / self-help books before. And I read it, and it did change my life. And it's called The Miracle Morning. And I think a lot of people have read it in business, but it's about transforming, starting your day right, in the simplest of terms, to set you up for the rest of that day and the rest of your life.
Excellent book there. Thank you for sharing that. If you could magically improve one area of your business right now, what would it be?
I'm going to go very practical with this one, I think, and it's the space that I am in. So I've got everything I need in this space. I've got my my vocal booth next to me, so I have everything that I need. But I just want a bit more room where I am, because this wall behind me is really, it's like my room is a long, like thin rectangle, and I want something that's not a long, thin rectangle because it's just not practical. Um, yeah, just a better room to be in. It's the extension on the side of the house that I got thrown into.
Oh, excellent. Um, they say a lot of our environment has an
Mm.
impact on our performance. So yeah, a good one there to change. Um, and then what does the future hold? So what's coming up? Where are we going the next 5 years?
Yeah, so the future holds, I think, because generally I'm sort of, I'm very happy where I am, what I do, and it wasn't until the end of last year I heard there's quite a few people talking about it actually on LinkedIn, talking about growth in a business. And I've always aimed for growth every single year and been fortunate enough that I have grown every single year. Um, and that's amazing. Very grateful for that. But a lot of people start saying, it's okay if you don't grow year on year. It doesn't matter as long as you're, doing your thing and you're doing okay. Don't don't stress if you don't reach that, the continued up graph sort of thing. Technical term there, up graph. Um, and I think for me is trying to obviously it's great making more money, brilliant, but I don't want to upset myself if I don't hit those targets, if that makes sense. I don't want to beat myself up about it or think, well, why aren't I? Because a lot of people measure success by making more and more money each year. Um, and I don't want to measure success by that. There's other things, I could have more jobs this year but make less money. So how does that, it's not always the deal breaker for me. I could win more awards this year but make less money. It just depends how things. I guess there's so many different factors. How the industry goes, um, what my clients are doing, what I'm doing, where I want to position myself. Because I'm always thinking about other areas to move into as well. I've gone out of focus. Um, like this year, I'm going to try and get into audio drama. So I've not worked in that space before. So obviously, I need to prepare to train in that area in order to make headway into there. So I'm not going to be getting those audio drama jobs straight away. So it might be that I slow down a bit in other places in order to focus on that. That was a rambling answer, wasn't it?
Well, it sounds to me, if I can take away from that, that it's also finding balance within the pursuit of
Yes.
what's next.
Yes.
So
I wish
yeah,
I'd
I
have
think
said that.
I think that's fantastic. Martin, I'm so grateful you came on today. This has been really great. Some really great golden nuggets that people can take away. So very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.